Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm your host, Tanya Kohler, helping you live your best life. And I'm always, reminding you that your mindset is like a muscle that truly needs to be strengthened and conditioned. So, are you ready for your mindset workout for today? Well, listen, I hope you are super pumped because I am really pumped about my guest today, who is, I would call him a master communicator. And we know how important communication is to life, our, everyday moments. Communication is really everything. And sometimes that's even the nonverbal communication, right? I mean, these are all factors that impact the quality of our lives. So I want to talk to our phenomenal guest who's an entrepreneur. He is an internationally renowned public speaker, professional speaker. He's actually done over, about like 10,000 speeches. I told you he's a master communicator. That is a lot of speeches. And also award winning. He actually won third place in the World 2021 World Championship of Public Speaking. And boy, that's impressive because if you think about it, that's one of the most dreaded fears that people have is speaking. So we're going to learn his secrets, his tips, and how also to live at your greatness. He is all about inspiring and motivating the masses to truly find their greatness within. Because you know what? You have it, it is there. And sometimes we forget that. So today is about reminding you of your beautiful greatness. Roger Caesar, it is such a pleasure having you here on the Mindset Mentor. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Great to be here. Woo!
Yeah, baby. Let's do this because, I know
Of
that you're
course.
busy and you're up to really great things. You just came back from California, doing what you love, speaking on the stages, motivating and inspiring people. But I want to talk a little bit about, your progression and how at one time, you weren't really that master communicator, right? That doesn't happen overnight. That's a journey. So I'd love to delve into your journey and what was the catalyst for you to really start to lead you down this path?
Well, it's funny. A lot of people would say to me, "Well, you gotta have been always like this. Did you always aspire to be a speaker? Did you always aspire to be able to share that greatness with other people?" And I often tell people, "No. I was the kid in school that was so shy that sat in the back of a room and didn't want the teacher to even call his name and would
Whoa!
sweat profusely. Oh, yeah. And I
Oh
would
my
sweat
God.
profusely at the sound of my name being called to go up to the front and to read. And that was me. Growing up in high school, I think it would probably be my last year of high school or my second year was when I started to open up and let the shell kind of start to open here. And that was because I ran track and field, and I used to let my work on the track do the talking for me. I wouldn't do a lot of speaking at all. I was still that shy kid. So when we fast forward to where my progression started, it would have been with the family business. My parents started a business about 34 years ago now. No, 38 years now. We're in our 38th year of business. And when my father was retiring and I was taking over that business, I realized that people see you very differently if you do not know how to properly communicate, especially in the business world. And if you have to go into any meetings and you're fumbling with your words, and even though you know exactly what you're talking about, that could be a problem. And that's where it all started, where the light bulb, so to speak, went off for me. I went into a meeting with one of our customers, a new supervisor, so to speak, and he was an introvert. And I never knew how to communicate with someone like that, even
Hmm.
though I felt probably I was one as well at that time. But I had no idea how to strike up a conversation. And that was what really catapulted me to go and find a place that would help me to alleviate that fear of going into a room and not knowing how to communicate and to be able to be comfortable any place, anywhere, at any time. And that's when I joined Toastmasters.
Wow, I love that. So it was really great nuggets right there. And really what calls out to me is that awareness piece, because awareness is so important. And I always tell my clients when I'm coaching them is that, when you have that awareness, you're 75% of the way there. Right? Because we often go through life with the blinders on, completely oblivious to our
Hmm.
patterns, to our surroundings. But when we can start to delve deeper and actually see some of the patterns that are in front of us, and often people are amazing mirrors as to what's going on, in our own world. I think that's incredible.
Hmm.
So being that shy person and then being in that, now thrown in and thrust into family business, that's interesting, where you now could see that, it's kind of difficult to communicate with an introvert who's not willing to communicate. And there's that mirror like, oh my gosh, that could just be me. And now how do I change that? And to have the willingness to change, I think is so
Hmm.
instrumental in cultivating that greatness and cultivating that great life, because it is within reach for everyone. So thank you for sharing that story. And I'm
Of
actually
course.
still really amazed that you were that shy kid. I can't
I
even believe
was.
that.
I was. I
Wow.
was.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
hard for a lot of people to understand,
Oh,
given where I am right now. But there's a Chinese proverb that says that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. And I believe wholeheartedly that that's what it is. And you touched on that, that sometimes it takes that moment when you realize you need to change yourself in a positive way. That was what it was for me. And taking that one step, realizing, hey, I have a problem and I need to fix it, and not keep pretending like it's not there, or
mhm.
hiding, or deciding that, hey, you know what, I can deal with it another time. Standing up, deciding, and I often tell my clients this. I use three words with them, and that is decide, commit, succeed. You have to make the decision first to with anything. Furthermore, you have to make that first step, that decision that you need to change, or you need to do something positive in your life, or if it's something that you've been really wanting to do on your bucket list, to make that decision. And then it's about the commitment, the sacrifices, the things that go on behind the scenes. That in itself, when it comes to my story, oh my goodness, I got to tell you, it's been crazy all around.
Wow.
But you do that, and then you hopefully succeed. And success doesn't necessarily mean it ends with a trophy or anything like that. Success is what you choose to be your success. If it's just that feeling of being able to walk into that first meeting and be comfortable, that's success. And I often let my clients know that let's do it in small phases and get to the success that you want.
I love that, because it is goes right back to taking that first step. And I think what really trips people up, and prevents them from taking that first step, is the belief that they need to know how that's going to happen, and trying to
Yes.
control everything and needing to have answers. But in
And the
life,
fear,
oftentimes,
and the fear, and that
yes.
fear,
Oh, it's
right? It's the
immobilizing.
fear. No matter, I think that's more of what it is. It's the fear. Will I fall? Will I fail? And that's what holds people back most times.
Yeah, and that leads to inaction, right? So it's definitely immobilizing, being stuck in that place of fear, right? But you just take that first step, and it's amazing how things unfold organically and naturally when you do take action. The universe rewards action. Whatever that small action is, there's always
Mhm.
a benefit, and there's a trickle effect that, will continue to and lead you down to the next step. And I know in my own life, I mean, I've had trajectories that have led me in completely different places. I had no idea where I would end up, and things just lead, And there's a quote by Steve Jobs that I love, which says, "You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back." And when we look at
Right.
life, all of a sudden, sometimes it just makes, not even sometimes, all the time, it just makes perfect sense. You're like, oh my gosh, this one thing led to this, that led to this. And it's amazing
Right.
how you connect those dots, right?
Yes, yes, most definitely. And that's the way you progress, right? You progress that way. You use those moments where you either failed or something happened that you didn't expect to happen.
Mhm.
You use that as learning moments. I also say that, don't let fear fool you. Let it refuel you. Let it
Mhm.
change you to do things better instead of letting it hold you down and hamper you. So I think that that's beautiful the way you put that, and I think that it's important that people understand the true value of those lessons learned and how they can make you change what it will happen in the future.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because so many people fear those lessons or change in life, and it's like, oh, that's where the magic happens. That's where the sweet spots are. In those moments of drastic change, those
Mhm.
hardest lessons. And it's funny because in my life, and that was me too, for sure, years ago,
Right.
many years ago, for sure. But now I welcome and I embrace change and I love it. I love the lessons. And sometimes
Absolutely.
they're hard and they're painful, but I always know that there is a beautiful lesson. So I just welcome it in now. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find the lesson quickly, instead of
Yes.
waiting 10 years, right? Because I've done that too. I don't know about you, Roger,
Oh,
and your
of
sort of path,
course. Of
right?
course.
Hmm.
Of course. No, I agree with you. Of course we have. Listen, none of us are perfect. We're human beings. And there are times when we get the lesson right away and we adapt to it and use it to help us move on. And then there are times where it takes time
Yeah.
before we realize, oh my God, the lesson was over there like all these years ago and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
So it happens. No one is perfect. And I think the bigger thing is at least you're learning. At least learn. You may have taken, as you said, may have taken 10 years to learn something or realize something, but
Hmm.
at least you found a way to learn. It's when we don't, that's when the problem really happens and it keeps on happening, right? The
Yeah.
same thing.
Those lessons sort of keep on popping up, right? Because it's another opportunity to start to see what you didn't see before. And having said all this, I just want to be very clear that we want to make sure that you're not beating yourself up when you feel like you haven't got that lesson, right? Or you're fearing change. Listen, we have a huge range of emotions as humans, right? And we are exactly where we need to be in the moment. So please don't beat yourself up. We want to have you support yourself, be your BFF, not your worst inner critic, not your enemy or the person that you treat the poorest. Because oftentimes, Roger, I mean, you know this when you're dealing with your clients, that it's amazing and shocking some of the things that they believe about themselves,
Oh,
or what they say to themselves, that inner critic, that we would never dream of saying something that like that to someone else. So why do we do it to ourselves? So what can you say to that, Roger?
well, I'll say this, Tanya. I understand that completely. And I'm going to start from a personal a portion of my life. The realization is that I felt like I didn't have, I'll even put it this way. I would often see friends growing up and think they had it all. And I'd look at myself, the skinny, shy kid, pimple face, didn't really fit in, so to speak. And I'd always put myself down.
Mm,
And it was, and I'll touch on this probably a little later, but my grandmother was really instrumental in my life. Really, really instrumental, along with my mom, of course, and my dad. But when I look at major lessons I learned in life, I always turn to my grandmother. And I remember there would be times when she would just tell me, you need to believe in the beauty of who you are.
mm,
You, the beauty of who you are. You are unique. You are the only you. You do not have to try to be anybody else. But what you need to do is understand your value, who you are, and what you can bring. And those type of words, and I mean, this is a woman who is from the Caribbean who may have said it in a different way, but that was the meaning that she was getting at. And I'll never forget that. And the other factor was is that I always circled myself around people who can help me to get better. And
mm.
that's another factor that a lot of people don't do. They stay in their little corner and they lock themselves up and feel like I'm a failure. I can't do it. I can't do it. I always say to my clients, I love when I see you come in saying you can't and you leave saying, I can't believe I did.
Wow,
Right?
that's good, profound.
That's the moment for me when we're working together, is seeing that. And I've had others around me who have done the same for me, who have made me realize, oh, you can't do this, Roger. And I go, they say, yes, you can. Here's how. Look. And then we go through the process. Does it always work the first time? No. So let's keep that real. But if you keep going and you stick to the process, things happen in the most positive way.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. It's so inspiring and it's so true because that's a belief that too many people have, is the belief that I can't, I'm not enough, it's not for me. And that
Mm-hmm.
same belief that you had when you were younger, that success is for other people, I can't do that. And that's a falsehood, right? Well, we live our lives stuck in a bubble of falsehoods that really impact the quality of our lives. And it's impossible to live your best life, to live that greatness within, when you have those self doubts that are bearing you, so to speak, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to be able to start to unravel those misconceptions and perceptions that are just, not serving us. So I'm loving this conversation. My special guest today, Roger Caesar. He is an incredible human, super powerful, dynamic in his voice and in his communication style. I call him a master communicator. He's spoken on stages and actually given over 10,000 speeches. He's actually a world champion as well when it comes to public speaking. So, he's got a lot of great information to share with you. So we're going to take a break and we'll be back with more Roger Caesar when we come back here on Saga 960. Welcome back to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tanya Kolar, helping you live your best life. And yes, it is possible. If you're thinking, hey, that's not for me, yes, it is. So I'm here to tell you that. And my special guest here today is here to tell you that. Roger Caesar. It is such a pleasure having you on the Mindset Mentor today, sharing your gifts, your talents, that powerful voice that you have. I know that you have spoken on many stages around the world. You just got back from California, and you are helping people to learn, really, I would say, like the art of communication, because communication is everything in life. And you spoke a little earlier about how you were that shy kid, and you did not have the skills, the communication skills that you have today, but you now are teaching other people to learn how to be a communicator, a better communicator, to find their voice, to live their greatness. And you do that through your coaching, your Caesar Empire coaching services, and the talks that you give, whether it's a TEDx talk or, a personal up close with individuals, or even in a corporate environment. And so to me, Roger, that is a gift. And so I want to acknowledge you for the gift that you are sharing with the world, because I think there's nothing better than to be able to motivate and inspire the masses and help them to really find that greatness. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Well, you've got, a lot of great things that you're doing and helping people. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, some of the examples, people who you've seen personally come into your world who maybe had a negative self-belief, or, needed some help to get to the next level, and whatever that next level looks like, because everybody is different, right? And that is great. And like the beautiful advice that your grandmother imparted to you, that you spoke about earlier, was to, find your uniqueness. Don't be somebody else. Be who you are. And that, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine having that growing up, because, my girl, I mean, my parents were amazing. I love them and they're awesome, but I didn't have that kind of encouragement or belief, because they didn't have the belief in themselves. So I can imagine, your grandmother, like, how powerful is that, and her message that rings true today.
Yeah, she was. She was an incredible woman all around, and I wanna say this. I understand that there are many, many people in our world that don't have a figure, a person there that can positively influence them and put them on the right path that they're on. And my heart goes out to those people, because even as a speaker, we try our hardest to inspire and to motivate our audiences. We try our hardest to send our messages out into the world when we have an opportunity. But we also are very cognizant of the fact that not every time we're going to reach out to somebody, but we hope that we do. We hope that this message that we send to this individual or these individuals, maybe they might be able to reach out to that person, and that message might be able to reach out to another person. And then it reaches that same person who didn't think there was anybody there for them. That's the power of what we do as speakers. My grandmother was one of those who, in her own way, was that type of a speaker in motivating and inspiring me through the lessons she taught me. No, she wasn't on stages. No, she wasn't giving 10,000 speeches or winning championships. But she was the quintessential person that you would want to have around you. Mm. And even if it came from a different source somewhere else, I'm hoping that even with our conversation here, that your listeners may have somebody that they know that might need the help. If they themselves need it, then that's fine too. But they may say, oh my gosh, you know what? I think that this person needs to hear what's going on the show. And to me, that's the greatest gift I can give back to others, right? So my grandmother gave it to me. I'm trying to, along with the many people who I've met along the way on this journey, I'm now trying to give it back in the way that I can.
Yeah, I love that. That's so deep and far reaching. I absolutely love that. And I think it's important for people also to remember that, you don't ever want to underestimate the power that you have. It could be one sentence that has impacted somebody's life in such a magnificent way. And I look back in my own experience. I remember a stranger at an airport said something to me once, and it just shook me. I was like, wow. At first I was annoyed. I was like, wow, how dare they say that? And then I realized, like, whoa, wait a second. There's so much truth in that. And I always remember that. It was something like, I was at an airport and I was upset, and someone said, didn't know me, didn't know why I was upset, and said, it's not that bad. And I thought, well, how rude are you? Right? You're interrupting my space. And, right. I didn't think anybody was paying attention, but it made me pay attention. And I thought, oh my gosh, he is absolutely right. It is not that bad, but we can get stuck in those beliefs. And then we become, a victim when we stay on that path. So it's really great to have that awareness, whether it comes through, listening to a podcast or a show like this, or through your right. grandmother or your parents or your sibling or a stranger, right? Remember that you are so powerful. Your language is so powerful that it can really help to uplift somebody to so many places that you never know, right? So anybody listening right now who thinks that you do not impact anybody, that is not true. You absolutely do.
You do. And you're 100% right. And it's funny you shared that story about you in the airport mm-hmm. and that person coming over you. My goodness, it just flooded me with a couple memories that I've had in that same sense, where out of nowhere there's somebody who comes and says something that you weren't expecting. And in my case, it was almost like deja vu happening twice to me. The first time was when I was running track. We were trying to win the national championship for the 4x100 meter relay, and we dropped the baton, and we were the odds-on favorites to win it. And I remember we were sitting in the middle of the field, dejected, and our coach came over, and he didn't. It's almost like he knew this is not the moment to say anything crazy to them. But all he did was he put his arm on our shoulders, and he just said, if you believe, you will achieve. Oh. And he left it at that. And he got up and he walked away. He goes, If you believe, you will achieve. And I looked at him and I said, but we just lost. And he said, just think about that when you're ready. And he walked away.
Wow.
Right.
That's a Zen
And
master right there.
it was a moment, as they say. It was a moment because the next year we went on to win it. We went on to win it all. And that was one of the things we remembered. Like, don't sit in that particular moment of despair and hurt. Move on,
Mhm.
move forward, right? And then it was many years later, and it's a sadder story. It's when my, God rest her soul, my grandmother passed away. It was, and again, that story alone would take us a while before to talk about. But in a Coles Notes version, she passed away 2 days before I was going to the World Championship of Public Speaking, my first time in
Oh.
2015.
Mm.
Like 2 days, literally 2 days before I was going there. And the speech I was delivering was about her.
Whoa. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the pain and how hard it was and gut wrenching it was to go on stage and basically do a eulogy for the world to hear about this great woman. And I could not do it properly. It
Mhm.
was devastating. And I was outside. I ran outside after I performed my speech, and I was sitting there, and a gentleman came over and stood over me, and all I could see was his name, and it was Steve.
Mm.
And he came over and he looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't muster up any words.
Mm.
And then he said the same thing, similar to my coach. He goes, "I don't know what happened. I will stay here with you, but I believe that you will achieve whatever it is that you wanted to do." And that was it. And he just stood there and he just kept patting me on the back and stayed with me.
Oh, I just got,
Deja vu.
yeah.
Whoo.
Ooh, I got chills
And
actually
it was,
both times. Like,
yes,
wow. Mm.
right. And it was many years in between. So again, it made me realize the importance of having people who maybe you don't know, but they have those situational moments where they come in and they say or do something that can completely change your life around.
Oh, I absolutely love that story. Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, I'm so sorry for your loss with your grandma because clearly you're so close. She meant the world to you, and having to be in that situation. I mean, just even the thought of it would be stressful. But then actually having to deliver it, that's a whole other, ball game there. But that is so impactful, and that person held space for you, right?
Mhm.
Understood that just being there, having that presence was so important. And I think that's kind of where we can all take that lesson of how to hold space for other people where they're at. Oftentimes we try to come up with a lot of answers, but sometimes it's better and it's more powerful and impactful to maybe say nothing, right? Or to have those minimal words that can really sink in those moments of deep need, and comfort. I mean, that sounded like that person was so comforting to you in that moment. And it goes back to what I said about you never know the impact that you had on somebody else's life. Those words, our language is key. The way that we show up for people or the way that we hold space for people is such a beautiful thing. And so thank you for going deep and sharing that story. But it's interesting that you kept on going. And there you are, years later, now truly a world champion. And your grandmother would be so proud of you.
Oh, it was a moment when I placed third in the world, and again, I've been to the World Championships 4 times. That was my fourth time in
Mhm.
2015, obviously with that story, 2016, 2018, and then in 2021. And you're right. I had a moment because in 2021 it was all virtual.
Mhm.
So it wasn't a situation like the previous three where I was actually there in person to deliver a speech. So when I delivered that speech, I was actually in my office by myself. And when
Mhm.
I heard that I had won third overall, I remember having that moment, your phone is ringing in the corner, it's on vibrate, so you can hear it in the corner there, people ringing to congratulate. But I had a moment when I sat there and literally it felt like the tears were just gonna gush down my face because it was a moment where I felt like, okay, I finally did it. And that moment in 2015 was a part of that, being able to vanquish that moment on stage when I completely failed in my mind
Mhm.
to deliver a speech that I really wanted to impact the audience with because of the situation, and to come full circle and be able to say, hey, you did it. You finally broke through and you reached the top 3 in the world. It may have taken you 6 years later, but you did it because you
Mm.
kept going forward. And that's the lesson for many people, that, hey, failures are going to happen. They're going to happen. But is it in that failure that you stop yourself and say, I won't do it again? Or do you find a way to keep moving forward?
Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, so good. And that is because if we look at some of the greatest successes in life, and the most successful business people, let's say, they always have these epic failures. Most of the time it started with an epic failure, and I think it's so important just to keep on going, and as they say, let's fail forward, right? So when
I
those
like that.
things that we
Yes.
call fail, right? We just
Yep,
keep
I
on
like
going.
that. Keep going. Keep going. It's the only way to go. You don't want to fall backwards. You want to keep moving forward. And I like that. Fail forward. I love that. I'm going to write that down. Oh, I
Good
love
one,
that.
right?
All
Yeah.
right. But
All
yes,
right. Well,
that's the way.
we're going to keep on moving forward here on Saga 960. You're listening to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tanya Kolar. My special guest today is Roger Caesar, and more when we come back after this break. And welcome back to the Mindset Mentor here on Saga 960. Oh, having an incredible conversation with Roger Caesar from Caesar Empire Coaching. He is also a world champion when it comes to speaking on stages. Yes, third place in the world, not just in the city or
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
world, people. So that's pretty impressive, Roger. Thank you for being here on the Mindset Mentor. I am loving the conversation. We've gone deep, and you've really, given us a good look into the real Roger, and inspired us to be more, and to bring out who we are, and to not be afraid of some of the challenges that we're faced in life. And it was interesting because we took a break, and Roger and I were talking in the break about, oh, have you ever had those moments where things are like so challenging? And we started to laugh about it because, oh my gosh, some of the challenges, they just keep on coming up, and you think, how am I going to get through this? And it's like, what? Again, another thing and another thing, but you keep on moving forward, and that's so important. So you're not alone out there when you've got those challenges. We're humans, we all have challenges. It's just a part of life. We cannot escape this planet without having a few challenges along the way.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's just the way it has to be. You have to realize that we're all humans. It's going to happen to you. It's how you deal with those situations that matter the most.
Yeah. So, okay. Now, when your clients come to you and they say, "Okay, I've hit this challenge, or I've hit a wall. Like, now what do I do?" And anybody listening right now who feels stuck, what words of wisdom can you share to empower them to keep on trying, to, burst through maybe that wall, and see the other side and the possibilities available to them?
I use the word believe, and here it is. It's an acronym that I use, and I'm going to break that down for everyone right now. The word is believe, and it goes like this: boldly experience life, imagining, enjoying victorious excellence.
Oh, oh,
I'm
I
going
love
to repeat that for your audience. I'm going to repeat that again.
Please
It's to
do.
believe, boldly experience life, imagining, enjoying victorious excellence.
Oh,
That
good.
is the first thing that I tell all my clients, and I let them realize, let them know, especially those who are writing speeches. So most of my clients are there to learn how to properly put together speeches, properly deliver them. I have clients that are in the corporate world who are trying to learn to do presentations, and they have their moments where they have doubts. And
Mhm.
I tell them this, and I show them in my office a stack of 150 different versions of my world championship speech. That's how many times I wrote, and rewrote again and refined it to get it to where it was. And
Wow.
it just so you know what it takes. And remember I said those three words: decide, commit, succeed. That's the commitment that I put in. My clients come in and some of them have the confidence. I'm not going to sit here and say that every one of them come in and they are complete failures and they don't know what they're going to do. There's a lot of my clients that come in with complete confidence in themselves, but it's the direction of how they where they want to go that I help them with. And then there are those that need a little bit more push to it. And I recently had one where uh, she was very, very uncomfortable being on screen and talking like this.
Mhm.
She didn't know if she was conveying her message right. She didn't know if the way in which she was delivering was correct, everything. And I stopped for a second. We stopped and I said, listen, you're here. You made that first step. So let's not think of it from the negative perspective anymore, but let's see how we can start building blocks. How far we can actually start stepping so we can get to that level that you want. Instead of staying at the bottom of it and looking up and going, there's no way I could do this. Let's just take one step at a time. Get up on that first step, which was to come here and see me. All right, we did that. Now let's see how we can articulate your thoughts and put them on paper. That's another step, and so on and so forth. So I think what it is that instead of, and this is for everyone, instead of trying to achieve your goals in massive leaps, break it down into little pieces, little wins, so to speak. Take little wins at a time, like the small ones. Hey, I finally decided to go to the gym, and that's a big one for a lot of people. But we're
Mhm.
just gonna start talking about that. I decided to go to the gym. All right, well that's a win. Number two is that hey, you know what? I got through my first workout. That's a win. Don't worry about hey, I didn't lose all the weight I wanted, or I didn't bulk up as quickly as I did. Take small wins and boldly experience life, imagining enjoying victorious excellence.
Oh, that's so darn good. I'm absolutely loving that. And that is so important, right? To reward those wins, the small wins, whatever they may be. It's part of the reward center, right? So when we start to reward ourselves for those small wins, it's creating and generating more dopamine, right, in the brain. And so that's that feel good chemical. And we want that. And the more you do that, the more you will build on that. So try to reward yourself as many times as you can. Pat yourself on the back. It's a job well
Do
done.
it.
You put your sneakers on to get to the gym. Maybe you didn't even get to the gym, but you put your sneakers on. Listen, that's a win. If you've been procrastinating and you've never done that for so long, you've been wanting to, yes, because when you do reward yourself and you from, let's say, putting on those sneakers, then you know what? You will get to the gym. And then when you're there, reward yourself, and you don't have to spend 2 hours on a treadmill, right?
No,
That's what trips
no.
us up. We're like, we can't do it because I have to commit this much time. I
Right.
remember this story, which I thought was really cool. So it was a coach working with a client, and this gentleman wanted to lose a lot of weight, right? It would be daunting for most people, the amount of
Mhm.
weight he wanted to lose. And they said the goal is this: you're going to put your clothes on, your gym clothes on, and you're going to get to the gym. Right. That was it. That
Right.
was his first task. Okay. So when he did that, then it turned into you can only work out for 10 minutes. That's it. You can't do more than that. You're only allowed to just spend 10 minutes, right?
Right.
But because
Right.
what it is that you're building that muscle, right? You're getting in there and you're building the habit And it's those habits that really dictate the quality of what our results are going to be, right? So it's
Right.
just about developing that muscle. And like I said, your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be developed and strengthened. And so right now, if you're always beating yourself up and you're full of lack, limitation, and doubt, guess what's going to show up? Right? Situations where you hold yourself back,
Right.
even though you want to move forward, you hold yourself back because it's the programs that are going on, in the background. So it's important to really become aware, and you've had
Yeah.
that awareness in your own life, Roger, and clearly you help your clients to get to that space of how can I be better than where I am now in this moment? How can I evolve to the best iteration of myself, not somebody
Mhm.
else, right? And I think
Oh,
that's so important.
you just touched on something right there, right there. That that idea that there are many people that look at others, and yes, there is a beauty in looking at someone who has succeeded and saying, "Wow, if they can, I hope I can be just like them." I often tell people, don't try to be me. Be the better you.
Ooh.
You can look at me as an example. And
Mhm.
when I was in California, this was a few months ago, not this time around, but a few months ago, I was in California and I met up with a group of young students. Now, these students, the background story is when I was going to compete in 2018 at the World Championships, I visited California just the year before, and they were younger, obviously, at the time, and they were just in awe of this guy that just came and spoke there, and they had always followed me. So when I went and I surprised them a few months ago, and they'd seen all that I have done so far, one of the young ladies came up to me and she said, "Oh my God, I just want to be like you." And without knowing that there was a camera around or anything like that, I turned to her and I said, "I don't want you to be like me. I want you to be the better you. And I want you to be the one that one day people will look at and say, I would love to be a better version of myself because of you."
Oh, wow.
And that, to
Mm.
me, is way more important than trying to be a Michael Jordan or trying to be a Oprah Winfrey or trying to be Steve Jobs. Any of these people, trying to be them. I don't want to be anybody. When people say, "Who do I mirror myself?" I say, I don't mirror anybody. I look in the mirror and I see me. And if
Mm.
I can look in the mirror and love who I am, or at least say, you know what, I want to be better tomorrow. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. If I can look at myself and try to do that, then that's better than me trying to imitate someone else.
Yeah, those are, so beautiful words of wisdom. And sometimes it takes a lot for people to recognize that they are emulating patterns or trying to be somebody else, because sometimes it stems from childhood and the expectation to be a certain way or to fit into the tribe. We stay small, or we, don't speak out, or we're not vocal. So, these conversations are so important. And I know that that's part of what you do in your communication coaching business, Caesar Empire Coaching, is helping people to find their voice. And it is so important to be authentic, to be real, to be who you are. So again, I just, I'm loving this conversation with you, Roger. I think it's so timely for people to listen to remember who they are, right? And to embrace who they are and where they are. And unfortunately, we are out of time. So just another quick minute, if you want to share some final words with the listeners, Roger, and also help people know where they can get a hold of you.
Well, first, I'll tell you where you can get a hold of me. I am on LinkedIn. You can reach me there. Spell my name the correct way, or you won't find me. It's Caesar,
Mhm.
Roger Caesar, and connect with me there. And also on Instagram, you can get me at my handle Caesar.empire. And I have my YouTube channel that you can also subscribe to as well. Final words. Life is hard. It is difficult. There are moments when you are going to struggle. There are moments when you are going to want to give up. There are times when you're going to think that the world is closing in on you 1 second at a time, and there's nothing you think you can't do. But I will encourage you to reach out, find that support system, those people that hold space for you, that allow you to see the inner greatness within you, even if you don't see it yourself, who allow you to say, you know what? I didn't think I could, but you've shown me that I can. And to understand that if you believe in yourself and boldly experience life, imagining, enjoying victorious excellence, the greatness that you so want and desire is waiting for you. Look within.
Oh, I love it. So beautiful. Roger, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your greatness and inspiring us to recognize our greatness. Well, that is a wrap for today's The Mindset Mentor here on Saga 960. But remember to embrace who you are and where you are at. Please don't beat yourself up. We are all experiencing challenges in life, and we learn from those most challenging moments. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that those greatest challenges in life are your greatest blessings. So we'll see you next time. Oh, and by the way, if you want to watch Roger and I with this conversation, have a look at my YouTube channel, but tune in every Thursdays at 3 p.m. for more mindset workouts.